Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Dr. Ron Najafi. Doctor, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Ben, for having me.
So, Ron, it's really interesting the work that you're doing, and certainly I know that our listeners are going to love to hear your thoughts. Dr. Najafi helps preclinical and clinical stage biotech CSOs, lab directors, and drug development leaders solve the complex analytical and regulatory bottlenecks that delay new drug filings and clinical timeline. He is the founder and CEO of Emery Pharma, and they combine scientific expertise with the business perspective of a former public life sciences CEO. And so we're going to hear about all the work that Emery Pharma is doing. But before we get there, Ron, let's talk a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your background and your career.
Thank you again for having me, Bant. Really appreciate it. And congratulations on a very successful podcast.
Oh, cheers. Thank you so much.
So my background, I'm a synthetic chemist. I grew up, my dad was a pharmacist, originally from Iran, and grew up in a family of scientists and doctors and physicians. So I've always been curious about scientific problem, drugs, how drugs work, and we're always curious about the mechanism of action of different drugs and things like that. So my first introduction to chemistry was in high school when I got a lab coat, and I was very excited about the fact that I had a lab coat, and I really got engaged in laboratory science and chemistry. Came to United States, studied at University of Pittsburgh, University of San Francisco, master's, bachelor's and master's in chemistry, and then ultimately PhD at UC Davis. And I spent a number of years working for Sigma Aldrich Corporation, Rhône-Poulenc Rohr in Philadelphia, and which is now Sanofi Aventis and Applied Biosystem. And I founded a company shortly while I was at Applied Biosystem. I was curious about what are we doing about evaporation of solvents in the fume hood. So I came up with a product. It's called EcoFunnel. And now this year we're celebrating 30 years of EcoFunnel on the market. So I put a company around it, and nobody wanted to license my EcoFunnel. So I ended up putting a company around it. Few years later, I founded a company called Novo Bay Pharmaceuticals. It was around curiosity again, around, how does white blood cell kill bacteria? And there's a molecule that's produced within white blood cells called hypochlorous acid. So that curiosity led to putting hypochlorous acid on the market. Today, there's a product is called Nutrophase Avenova for blepharitis. It's a leading product for blepharitis, dry eye blepharitis. And so I put that company together. It's called Novo Bay Pharmaceutical, grew it to large enough size. We took the company public, lots of partnership. And we also had a product, MVC 422, which is used for bladder catheter, basically blockage, incrustation. Again, it all came out of a curiosity. So that basically connecting line in my career has been curiosity. And at Emery Pharma, which is a CRO that I founded in 2011, again, we become curious about our client's problem, and we want to solve those problems, and really one of the things we do at Emery Pharma is we bring scientific know-how and curiosity to really put to work in the benefit of our client's project. And
it's really interesting because I think that ever since the pandemic, the laymen out there are maybe a little bit more aware of research and bringing products to market. And there's always been this thought, well, maybe things now that we've entered this AI era, right? Things are going to move faster. Clinical research will change. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing out there. Are there more products moving through clinical research? Is the pace different?
So, Ben, the easy molecules and easy drugs that were to be discovered have already been discovered. We're
Mm-hmm.
going into an era of hard problems. But there's tremendous opportunity to solve hard problems. For example, with GLP-1s,
Mm-hmm.
we're creating tremendous impact in metabolic disorders and diabetes and obesities and so forth. But these are hard problems and require a lot of research, a lot of regulatory know-how to bring them to the market, like aspirin with a small molecule, put it on the market, one, HPLC, one melting point, boiling point, here's your drug.
Mm-hmm.
Many of these drugs have multiple ways of testing and analysis. So they're
Mm-hmm.
complicated. Regulatory space is becoming more challenging, and of course, AI and automation is very helpful in the right hand. With
Mm.
people who are using their brain, AI and automation is fantastic.
Yeah.
With people who are not using their brain and they're trying to treat CRO work as commodity, AI is disaster. It's just
Disaster.
a
Yeah.
bunch
Real
of data,
problem.
a lot
Yeah.
of data. So there is the commoditization of CRO is out the window,
Mm-hmm.
where you would send 100 samples to a CRO and get results. Now you need to be thinking about, your client's problem. You need to
Yeah.
figure out how to solve problem. AI and automation certainly is useful. Again, it needs to be done. They're using AI in drug discovery, but those drugs need to be synthesized and tested. You just cannot
Yeah.
just say, here's a drug, go ahead, get it approved. And
Yeah.
and regulatory atmosphere and basically regulatory space is much harder. FDA is becoming much tougher. They're becoming more demanding
Oh,
on
really?
extractable, leachables, impurity analysis, nitrosamine testing, which is something we were involved with heavily. So
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the challenges that are increasingly becoming very important in CRO space.
It's really interesting because there is this sense that, we talk to a lot of companies that work in the kind of healthcare, pharma space, and, it depends on where you talk to people. If I talk to doctors and nurses that are working in hospitals, they tend to be very frustrated with the lack of resources and things like that. If I talk to people at some of the leading universities at times, they'll be very excited about the new innovations that are here and the things that are coming down the pike. And then sometimes I'll talk to these folks that are working with the GLP-1s, the peptides, and the things that they say are possible sound quite exciting, right?
Right,
But I often have the feeling that you have, Ron. I'm a little skeptical. I want to
right,
know. I want to know that there's some good research there
right.
going. So I'm really happy to obviously know that there's companies like Emery Pharma out there. But when you talk to customers, what are the customers that are really kind of doing this type of work, and what are their biggest concerns and thoughts these days?
Well, the biggest concern is obviously, having enough resources to do what they want to do, raising money and all of that. And they want speed. There's always speed, getting things done versus rigor in our business. We want to do things with speed, but at the same time, bring in significant thinking and rigor in the work we do.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I mentioned earlier, the problems have become much more challenging to solve. You have to define these molecules from 12 different angles to get a quality testing done.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in a small molecule 50 years ago, you make your molecule, you do a chromatography. You used to, chemists would know, they would do a TLC and they would do a melting point, boiling point, this and that, and the drug is done, ready to
Yeah.
go on the market. Today, you have a contrasting agent that's used for MRI or CT
Mhm.
scan. You have to do 12 different QC. You have to
Mm.
look at NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometer.
Mhm.
Your instrument needs to be qualified, needs to have been inspected by the FDA. You have to do mass spectrometry. A lot of the drugs that are on the market today, and USB has basically protocols around it, they're using HPLC. We need to go beyond that. We need to use mass spectrometer
Mhm.
because they have a higher level of detection, selectivity, specificity. They will definitively, determine if the molecule is the right molecule. They will definitively give you a better profile. So we need to move up. The challenge today is we need to get a better sense of our drugs. We need to have a higher quality. We want to
Mhm.
make sure drugs don't get recalled because some stupid mistake somebody made. One of the things that I do is I read FDA's warning letters
Mm.
to the pharmaceutical industry. I read FDA's, 483 citations, various things, corrections. I read the CRLs, and they're very educational and they provide a lot of direction to companies. FDA cares about method development and validation. You have a method to test the compound, but if it's not validated, the, the method is not correct. It needs to be validated.
Mhm.
So these are things that FDA effectively provides a lot of guidance, citation, warning to companies. You cannot be selling things on the market just because you're making peptide and people are saying all these peptides are great. One helps you with your arthritis, another helps you with this, that. They need to be tested. The other thing is they're dangerous. If you don't have the right thing, if you haven't done the right quality check, it could be dangerous. And those are things that we worry about and FDA worries about. And of course, clients who want to do the right thing should worry about too. You make sure that all the right testings are done when they want to bring a product to the market.
Yeah, I can see that you're very passionate about this, and that's I maybe we should, instead of calling you a doctor, we should call you an investigator here, because you clearly like being a bit of a detective, I think, on this
We,
stuff.
we, we try to help our clients solve problems. So they come to us, they have impurity profile in their formulation, drug formulation, and they're trying to do the right thing. They put the product on stability testing. And, we're talking to an ophthalmology company that's doing a fantastic drug for ophthalmology. And during the process of their stability testing, they're encountering a lot of impurities and they
Mm.
want to know what those impurities are. Are those impurities potentially toxic? Are those
Mm.
impurities potentially carcinogenic? That's the right thing to do. And we brainstorm with them. We bring our scientific mind to the table and try to collaboratively help them get to an answer that would satisfy the FDA or EMA or Japan
Yeah.
medical authorities, wherever the medical authorities are.
Are you finding that there's alignment with those organizations? I mean, I think probably there might have been a thought that maybe things might have been getting easier in some way with the FDA, but it based on this conversation, I'm getting a sense that it's as rigorous as ever.
There is alignment between the organization. Everybody wants to safety first. Everybody
Hmm.
wants to save drug.
Right.
Sometimes some regulatory agencies approve something based on data that's available to them. Sometimes a regulatory agency looks at a drug and say the safety data is not sufficient. They want more safety data.
Hmm.
So those are the type of questions, but they're all very scientifically minded. They all want to do the right thing, and nobody wants to have something fall through the cracks. So and things come up. For example, Zantac was on the market for 40 years, and there was an observation made that Zantac and ranitidine has NDMA. NDMA is a cancer-causing carcinogenic compound, allegedly a cancer-causing compound, and it's caused cancer in 20 different animals tested. And so they saw NDMA in ranitidine, and they thought it's contamination. FDA thought it was
Mm.
contamination. We actually figured out the root cause, and we figured out it wasn't contamination. It was actually being generated from the drug molecule itself.
Wow.
So we brought that to the FDA's attention, and of course, our investigational, know-how and rigor resulted in that knowledge base that
Amazing.
was needed. And right
Amazing.
now, we do a lot of nitrosamine risk analysis. We try to help clients, save money, do the right thing, because the worst thing you want is to put a drug on the market and without the proper risk analysis
Yeah.
or
Well, I mean, I
nitrosamine.
think that to me is I'd be curious, and this is probably not an area that you would work on, because that's, to be honest with you, I don't know if it's even that, I don't know, innovative. But all of these peptides that are appearing in the marketplace, that if I go to physician, they'll tell me, well, this could do this for me and this could do that for me. But I'm perhaps not as rigorous as you are, Ron. But I'm also an investigator, and I look up research, and I don't find much research there for some of those things. And it's quite frustrating, because then you're like, well, how are they making these claims? And
If you make a claim for a drug, it's subject to FDA's jurisdiction.
mm,
FDA needs to say that claim is correct or not, or you cannot make those claims.
mm,
So the companies that do make those claims and they are selling peptide, sometimes they are selling it under it's what's called research use only.
yeah,
But people then buy it and inject it. They give themselves a subcutaneous injection of these peptides, and it's very dangerous.
yeah.
Somebody could die. If let's say this is not a peptide, somebody made a mistake. It's cyanide
Yeah.
powder.
Well, I
You're
mean, it's
not.
also kind of like what you just highlighted. It might not be completely pure. It could have a ton of problems with it.
It could be poisonous. It could be very hazardous.
Yeah.
Somebody makes mistakes. And unfortunately, we don't work with those companies. We only work with companies that are moving toward a regulated FDA pathway.
Okay, good.
The companies that do these types of things, they're trying to go under the radar, FDA's radar. And when they get to a point where somebody is hurt, that's when FDA comes to the picture. They get a warning letter, they may get shut down, and all
Yeah.
kinds of things. And the agency, our FDA, has a lot of jurisdiction on
Mm.
what people claim
Yeah.
in the public market.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like there is a lot of innovation happening. I know I think that you started the conversation highlighting that maybe we're out of the easy phase of drugs and we're moving
Right.
into a more complicated space, but perhaps a more complicated space that might offer even more exciting solutions down the road. But it's all going to have to be tested. Tell me
Right.
a little bit about what you see the landscape looking like in the near future in this space.
The landscape for our business is really moving toward more complicated medicines, gene therapy, modalities, cell therapy modalities, peptides that are very complicated, antibody drug conjugates. These are drugs that have it's like a warhead attached to a smart bomb. They're getting complex. So the mindset of, essentially it's like a general that was fighting a World War II is now in World War III.
Mm-hmm.
The mindset of small molecule aspirin type mindset, USB, oh, there's a USB method for this or that, is now changing.
Yeah.
FDA is also very much more demanding. They want to know what's the pharmacokinetics of a drug, what's the, what biomarkers are being produced. Safety is becoming even more important. And so it's becoming more challenging. At the same time, AI is introducing us new ways of getting, sort of looking for patterns. It's kind of like reading the tea leaves, which direction to go. But you need smart people to figure that out, with
Yeah.
how to take advantage of the AI.
Yeah.
But one of the things, Matt, that I emphasize at Emery Pharma, I tell my team, I don't want our scientists simply asking what test the clients order. I want them to be asking what problem is the client actually trying to solve?
Right.
What problem they're trying to solve?
Yeah.
What are they trying to do? We want to get under the hood and figure out what problem they're trying to solve, so we can genuinely work on that as opposed to doing analytical testing. So that's old. That's 30, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
where you could get away with those types of things. Today, it's things are getting far more complex. The agencies are getting far more complex. Instrumentations, in good ways or bad ways, good ways for, people who want to do the right thing, getting much more sensitive, much more capable. Even instrumentations are getting enabled with AI.
Yeah.
Everything, AI is getting into everything.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
at the same time, you got to check the AI to make,
Yeah, no,
just
I
because
know.
AI says something, somebody needs to be checking that, you know.
Yeah.
So
Step by step, but all very exciting. Well, listen, Ron, it's amazing to hear about everything that Emery's working on, and certainly the state of preclinical and clinical stage solutions. But I guess the big thing really is for folks that are out there that might be interested in learning more about what you offer, maybe entrepreneurial companies, etc. Where's the easiest place to find you?
on LinkedIn, obviously, I have a very extensive profile of, obviously, Emery Pharma. But the best way to connect with us is go to our website, and there's a button there that says contact us, request a quotation. And by clicking that, you get access to our scientific team. I read every one of those inquiries, and I get engaged with most of them. My team gets involved. One of the things that we try to do, 100% of the time, we respond to every inquiry. If
Yeah.
if we cannot help them, we let them know. Even if we cannot help them, we tell them who can in our
Yeah,
business.
yeah, yeah. Well, the one thing I love, Ron, I looked at the information about Emery Pharma. It's really something that it has come out very clearly in our discussion today, is that you're aiming to solve problems, solve kind of the chemistry, challenge what can be done, look at kind of how fast it can be done, make sure that it follows the critical regulatory rigor that we need to see. And I think that's
Yeah.
obviously a benefit of working with Emery
Right.
Pharma.
While I'm not a big fan of AI doing customer service, but I'm experimenting with a digital twin of myself on our website.
Oh, great.
So if you go to our web during the day, during 9 to 5, contact us, and then we get somebody on the phone. But in the evening, at night, when we're not here, I have a digital twin on our website. If you actually go there, try it, you'll see. And I've trained it to answer a lot of questions that people have about what we do. The digital twin, I'm experimenting. I'm looking to get feedback on that as well. I'm
Excellent.
excited about the use of AI with our website.
Excellent. Well, digital twinning is clearly the world that we live in today.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being on the show today, Doctor, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
telling us about what you're working on. We've been speaking with Dr. Ron Najafi. He is the founder and CEO of Emery Pharma. They help preclinical and clinical stage biotech CSOs, lab directors, and drug development leaders solve complex analytical and regulatory bottlenecks that delay really new drug filings and clinical timelines. So, Ron, amazing conversation today, and
Thank
we
you.
look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much, Ben. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Okay, thank you.